This is Omar Brownson, co-founder and CEO of gthx. I really appreciate being with you here in this moment, in this week, in this year of 2020. If you're like me, you are probably experiencing lots of different emotions. And my intention today is really to create this space for those emotions. And whether it's pain, weariness, what I would like us to do is just be able to sit in that pocket of uncertainty with all of these feelings. And my hope is that in that pocket, we might find our resilience. This moment feels both familiar and new. I'm here in Los Angeles and I can hear sirens outside my door. In 1992, I was a senior in high school when we had our civil unrest. I remember there was so much smoke in the air that I couldn't see the end of my block. I remember the next day after the riots, or the days after the riots, cleaning the rubble out of the street. And if you sort of closed your eyes in a particular way, you could almost imagine as if nothing had ever happened. And yet something did. And for me, I felt this sense of fragility of our city, of our democracy. I realized that these are not necessarily these big structures and institutions, but almost more like fabric that can be torn, but hopefully easily woven together. And this wasn't the first time that we had riots in Los Angeles. We had the 1965 Watts Rebellion. And so we're seeing history repeating itself again and again. And with this turbulence, there is pain, there is weariness, there's doubt. I channeled that energy from high school to college and got deeply involved in supporting immigration and affirmative action issues, sleeping on the steps of my school administration building, doing a hunger fast for 3 days in support and solidarity of hunger strikers who are fighting for cultural sovereignty. I remember sleeping out on the steps of my school administration building and just trying to just bear witness. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do in this moment is just to bear witness. And whether we're just bearing witness to our own emotional struggle, whether we are finding compassion for those who are out on the streets. I want to share some words from Dr. King that I hold dear. Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. I'm going to read it one more time. Power without love is reckless and abusive. We've seen that all too tragically 7+ days ago with the murder of George Floyd. Power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic. And that's just trying to live in its fragile state. And power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. So when I see the protesters out on the streets, I can feel their love implementing the demands of justice. I can feel their power trying to correct everything that stands against love. My one ask in this exercise is that you note what resonates with you. What do you feel in this moment that we're together? What word, what phrase? The reason I ask this is that when we share what resonates, we collapse the separation between each other. We move from just sharing this moment to actually sharing this space. And part of what is so painful of this moment is we can see so clearly the divides and the separations. And so when we can resonate our own experiences and share them, that is part of our collective experience and creating that hidden wholeness that is sometimes too hard to find. If you've done this practice with me before, you know that we begin with a breath. And today, I can't start that practice without acknowledging that George Floyd said, "I can't breathe." That Eric Gardner said, "I can't breathe." And so many other people who we've lost and who we don't know have said, the hands of violence, the hands of reckless and abusive power, I can't breathe. And so when we begin this breath today, breathe with George Floyd, breathe with Eric Gardner, breathe with all those who could not. So we'll begin in and release. In and release. Feel that magic, that exchange of air coming into your body, that fragile substance that we can't even see. But without, we couldn't live. Breathe with compassion. Breathe. With generosity. Breathe with humility. And from this place, where we recognize what is so essential, we recognize what truly bounds all of us, our air. What is something in the last 24 hours that you can name because you appreciate that moment, that experience? Name it. With gratitude, we make visible what we value. What we take for granted, we make invisible. And too many people, lives, feelings, emotions, we've held invisible for too long. And so it is an act of courage, an act of resistance, an act of standing up to notice what is good in your life. And I want you to take that feeling and wrap it around you like a cloth to shield you, to cover you, to give you warmth. Feel that positive emotion, feel that moment of goodness wrapping you, comforting you, giving you safety, holding you, gentle as it just covers you. When we pause to not just notice what is good, but to fully embrace it and experience, we're creating an emotional signature. That emotional signature is like a North Star, so that when things are dark and it's just hard to see, we can just look up. And we know that we've been here before, that we've overcome these challenges. Resiliency is recognizing that we're not trying to go from here to there. This isn't about going from A to B. This isn't about going from problem to solution. Resiliency is about being comfortable in the discomfort, to recognize the disruption, to recognize the pain. And with resilience, we can see that that moment is just a moment, that we're not locked into it. We're not frozen in time. When we sit in that pocket of uncertainty, wrapped in that cloth of good, of love, of justice, we can allow another moment to unfold. And from this place, cloaked as we are, we can look at whatever pain, whatever weariness, whatever struggle that you're facing. Go ahead and name it. I want you to imagine yourself wrapped in this cloak of love, of goodness, sitting on the side of a river. And you see time, life flowing in front of you down that river. And whatever that difficulty is, whatever that challenge is, let that be a stick floating down the river. And so you can see it upstream, floating, bobbing along. It comes closer to you and it may seem to be getting bigger. But it too is just moving in time. And if you can give yourself that space to sit into that pocket of uncertainty, you don't actually have to reach out and pick up that stick. You can just let time, life, keep moving and see that stick go downriver. We recognize what is difficult once we can recognize what is positive, because we are trying to trigger our positive emotions so that we don't get triggered by our negative ones. And Lord knows there are triggers everywhere at the moment. And so turn that negative experience into that stick and keep yourself wrapped in that cloak. But as we look forward, without offering solutions and still staying in this pocket of uncertainty, but if we know that what we are looking for is love, what we are looking for is justice, what we are looking for is power that is in service of, we do that by giving thanks. Because with gratitude, gratitude is an emotion of receiving. And so when we can name what we are grateful for and we can receive it, then that is how we create the love, the justice, and hold the space that we all need to be here together. And so let's begin by giving our thanks. So who is someone that you know or don't know that you can give thanks to in this moment? I would like to name my friend Dion. Dion is young African American. He went and worked in the White House. He's got an amazing voice and spirit. And he, earlier this week, was protesting nonviolently. And a rubber bullet from a police officer hit him in the face, fractured it in two parts. I texted with him as he was on the way to the emergency room, and he said, I think I'm gonna be all right. And the next day I saw him post notes from the field. And he said, I am out on the streets protesting so that many of you can stay home and be safe. So many people are making sacrifices, big and small. So I want you to send whoever that person is for you, your love, your healing, your compassion. I want you to imagine them receiving those emotions that you are sending them, and how that must be to feel that love, that compassion, that recognition. We are bearing witness with our gratitude. Now I invite you to again rest your eyes, take a breath in, and release. In and release. Notice where in your body you feel your breath. Can you feel the calming of being present with all those emotions, that you wrapped yourself up with the positive ones and let the difficult ones float by? Sitting in the pocket of uncertainty, it's so hard not to want to do something. It's so hard not to want to freeze. It's so hard not to want to fight. Those are the feelings that we get in these moments of trauma and difficulty and disruption. The emotions are always the same: fight, flight, or freeze. We're not trying to solve them. We're trying to dissolve them. And we dissolve these emotions by breathing. Because if we act without thinking, we're letting our feelings, our raw emotions drive our energy. And it's our breathing that allows us to mediate our environment. So as you take that breath, you're mediating the environment, all the challenges that are happening around you, and allowing your emotions to not fight, not freeze, not run, so that your feelings can be calm in the present, so that you're thinking and what you will do next. Be with intention, be with purpose, be with love. Thank you. I invite you to share a word or a phrase that resonates. Again, this exercise is just as powerful as all the other ones, because it is in our sharing of these words that we overcome those divides, those separations. Part of the pain is that we are seeing some of the fabric of our humanity ripped. And so by sharing what resonates, that is part of the healing, that is part of us recognizing our hidden wholeness. That is why gratitude is so powerful as a social emotion. It shows us that our self-care and our relationships are absolutely interconnected and interrelated. Breathe with compassion, breathe with generosity, breathe with humanity, breathe with humility. Not about solving, about dissolving. Our breath allows us to mediate our environment. Compassion. So tonight, or this evening, we will end with a song from Kedron Bryant, 12 years old. And this will close us out. Thank you so much for being here. Thank yourself for being here. Take care.